Welcome to Start Writing, Keep Writing, the Creative Writing Workshop podcast. The theme of this episode is prophecy. You'll need a pen and paper or the notes up on your phone or a blank screen. The first few minutes will be a writing warm-up. Then I'll talk a little bit about why I chose the topic and why it's interesting for writers, and we'll get to the main writing exercise. During the writing exercises, I'll speak every 2 to 5 minutes to give you a chance to concentrate, so don't worry if what you can hear is silence. Hopefully you'll be concentrating on what you're writing. And towards the end of the main exercise, I'll give you an opportunity to press pause, so you can write for longer if you like. Then I'll invite you to concentrate on your own writing. During the warm-up exercise, do be very gentle and careful with yourself. Just keep writing. Don't go back and read or worry about what you've put down. Don't correct your spelling or punctuation or worry if it's complete nonsense. Remember, we're not marking it, it's just for fun. So I want you to imagine that a person is cracking an egg to cook with. What they make and who they're making it for and how they feel is completely up to you. Perhaps you could choose a recipe that you know you're really good at. But this person believes that it will go well. They are happy about their skill and their attitude is that everything is going to be fine. So I just want you to write me a description of the sense of them cracking that egg into a bowl, feeling that everything will go perfectly well. And we'll give you about 5 minutes. And if you haven't done so already, or if you're starting to struggle, then you could think about describing for me the room that they are in. Let's lift our sights just a little wider. And if you're enjoying your writing, please ignore me. But if not, I'd like you to get this character to look for a spoon. The next thing they need in the recipe is a teaspoon, but they're perfectly happy. They know they can find it. And if you need 30 more seconds, then you can hit pause. But otherwise, I'm going to invite you into the second part of this warm-up writing exercise. I'd like you just to leave a line. I'd like you to write a very similar scene in the next 5 minutes. Once again, a person is in their kitchen. They're going to crack an egg. They're cooking a recipe. But now they believe that it's going to go really badly. They're frustrated. Every time they have cooked this dish before, it hasn't tasted the way they want. And what we're doing is just playing with how this attitude changes the way they might move or think or react to this very tiny action of cracking an egg into a bowl. Once again, I'm just going to give you about 5 minutes. And if this is working for you, then ignore me. But if not, then once again, your character is going to look for the next thing that they need to make this recipe. But they can't find it. And how that affects their mood or their inner thoughts is completely up to you now that they're feeling like this is something they can't achieve. And for the final minute of this exercise, you could also allow your character to completely give up. But what would be the consequences of that for them in that moment? How would they feel about it? Obviously, people expect to be fed and then they won't be feeding them if they give up. So, how does that make your character feel? And now you can begin to bring the sentence that you're on to a close. If this has taken off for you, then you might want to hit pause and just spend a couple more minutes with your writing. But that was just the warm-up exercise. So now we'll move on to the meat of the meal, I guess. So let's have a think then about the nature of prophecy and prophecies, why they can be so useful to us as writers, and how characters experience them. Obviously, prophecies can be very explicit. So, particularly in the genre of high fantasy, we have the chosen one. And that comes from kind of Greek myths and the idea that somebody can tell you your future. But there's also a different kind of prophecy, which is much smaller and more domestic, something we're taught when we're young, which might be something like, that child will never amount to anything. That can be a prophecy about someone's particular individual life that they find it very difficult to escape from. A warning or a promise can also become a prophecy if a character takes it very seriously. The idea that there are certain actions they must never undertake or certain places they must never visit can become very, very powerful in their psyche. So a prophecy then is an explicit message about the nature of a character's true destiny or place in the world. But it doesn't have to come from a high priestess or a temple. It can equally be a message about who we are as people and what's expected of us. A prediction can be quite often be practical within your plot. Like you must go to this place and do this thing. A prophecy can be a little bit more than that. It's often made by a prophet and it can have mystical or religious elements. So even when it's a psychological idea that we believe about ourselves, the idea of a prophecy brings us into themes of destiny and fate. Arguably, it's about what a character knows and is told. Some characters take what they're told about themselves and they build it up to the level of prophecy and they develop these profound beliefs about who they are as individuals. So it is a little bit more than a character just maybe experiencing some nervousness or anxiety and saying, this won't go well. It's actually about the nature of fate and the universe and our place within it. Religion used to be the arbiter of profound truth, but modern characters can find the same level of horror and annihilation and success through ideas like living their own truth and believing their own truth. If we think about a character like Pip in Great Expectations, he comes to believe he's being groomed for marriage and success, and his beliefs about the identity of his benefactor colour his life and his choices, and he doesn't always make good choices with the opportunities that he's given. Equally, someone like Paul Atreides in Dune, he believes that he's living out a prophecy, and a lot of people around him believe he's living out a prophecy about becoming a being of power. And this gives him a sense of righteous purpose. But the books or ask us as readers to question, the nature and morals of that belief. So characters have complex predictions and prophecies about their lives that can spur them into action and create a plot. I'd like you to consider the difference between a character that believes these different statements about themselves. I am destined for great things. That's a prophecy that someone might believe about themselves that would make them different from no one will ever love me. And that again would make them very different from things will be fine as long as I stay quiet. So these are prophecies and beliefs that people have about themselves and the way they act in the world. And when characters like this are subjected to unexpected events and plot twists that come from external places, and they might react in very different ways. So we're going to get to the main writing exercise now, and your character is going to ask someone to read their fortune. Let's begin with that character. If you have a work in progress, it might be a character that you've met before or worked on before, and this might be a good writing exercise to get to know them better. If you haven't got a character in mind, then let's create one. We simply need a name and an age, and from there we will discover the rest of their personality through writing about them. So you can write down a name and an age, and if you're working with a character that you know very well already, again, write down their name and their age just to remind you of, when you go back through your notes, who this was about. So this character is going to hear a prophecy about themselves. Do they believe that prophecy? That's completely up to you. You're the writer. Does the person delivering the prophecy take this seriously? So this could be an end of the pier, jolly, crystal ball type exercise, or it could be an almost religious, deeply held belief that whatever stones or tea leaves or looking into the stars is creating this prophecy. This is something really, really serious. Is it a prophecy that everyone knows? So the chosen one prophecy, often a lot of people know at least that there is a chosen one, even if they are trying to discover who it is. Or is this something just unique to your character that nobody else knows? Have a think about whether or not you want to promise them wealth and power or doom and destruction. And it can be quite fun to do this exercise in one way and then do it with the opposite. But I'd like you to imagine an act of looking into the future that might have a profound effect on their life. And you might find that this exercise is mostly about character, or you might find that it's completely about plot. And if you've never had your fortune told before, then I would say the easiest way to do this exercise is for them to visit someone who looks into a crystal ball and tells them the future. But if you've had your tarot cards read at any point, then the drawing of cards and the meaning of those cards, something like the Fool, the Magician, the Lovers, the Sun, that can be quite an interesting one as well. So we'll take about 15 minutes. You should have a name and an age. And if you don't know what the prophecy will be, don't worry, just have them step into the space. Perhaps it's dark with velveted curtains. Perhaps it's some enormous old Greek style temple. Begin there, have them step into the space where they will receive their prophecy. And if you're enjoying your writing, then you can ignore this prompt. But if you're struggling to get going a bit, then maybe have your main character ask some kind of specific question about their future or some clarification on the nature of the prophecy or detail. They're not challenging it yet, but they're pushing a bit to get more. Once again, if you are enjoying your writing, then you can ignore this. But you might also consider having your main character challenge this prophecy a little or push back at it. Could they express that they think this is absolute rubbish? Maybe there's no way they'll be able to achieve the task they've been set. And once again, if you're on a roll, then ignore everything I'm saying. But if not, let's make sure we hear the inner voice of the person who has received this monologue, this prophecy, if we haven't got there yet. Let's have a think about their internal monologue. Allow them to ruminate on what they've just heard. What would they never express to anyone else about the nature of this fortune telling, this prophecy about them? Perhaps there's some terror there, or perhaps they always knew in their heart that they were the chosen one. And now, in the last couple of minutes of this writing exercise, I invite you to let your character make a decision about an action they will take influenced by this prophecy. It might be something like, I am going to ask my auntie about her will, seeing as I've just been promised endless riches. I am going to throw in my job and go back to retrain to be a samurai. I am going to buy a new car. What action will they take in the external world, spurred on by some of the scene and the ideas that you've just written for them? And if you are enjoying your writing and you'd like a few more minutes with this, then do just hit pause and take as much time as you want. If you're ready to come to an end, then you could come to an end by finishing the sentence that you're on. If you've had some kind of big idea that you're not going to have time to get to now, then sometimes when I'm writing, I like to just put bullet points at the end to remind me next time I sit down, like mountain, or goes back to tell everything to mother. You'll have a whole scene in your head of how that's going to play out. And just a couple of keywords can really help with your next writing session. So I hope you enjoyed that little exploration of the nature of prophecy and how it can affect the characters we write about. As we come to an end, I'd invite you to read back what you've written today. See if there are any ideas in there that you'd like to develop. Sometimes these can be in a very different direction than you were anticipating. The nicest thing about these writing workshops are that they can bring you to a place of surprise. So if there's something in there that you really weren't expecting, but that's caught your imagination, that's fantastic. I always like as well, with a writing exercise, to go back with a different coloured pen or a highlighter if you're working on screen, and just record any turns of phrase, nice descriptions, great dialogue, anything you think, oh yeah, that's really good. I might not use it in this context, but maybe I'll drop it into something else. And as well, what that means is when we go back through our notebooks as writers, we can see positivity coming at us from the page. We can remind ourselves of what we've been doing that is worth celebrating, that's really good, as you build up a notebook full of your ideas and little scraps of evidence and writing and stuff. It's really nice to be able to see that some of it was good. Hopefully, what you've explored today is the idea that prophecies about characters can provide them with quite strong and quite strange motivations for their actions. And these can be really high level, big, important scenes at the beginning of a book when a character is told, this is your life's destiny, which you cannot escape. Or they can be smaller, rooted more in sort of child development and psychology, but they're still just as powerful. So that has been Start Writing, Keep Writing, the Creative Writing Podcast. I do hope that you enjoyed it, and you can join me next time for a completely different topic.